Hi, my name is Angelo Lopez. I am a Filipino American editorial cartoonist in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I have the great honor to be speaking to a wonderful Canadian cartoonist, animator, and puppeteer who now resides in Barcelona, Spain. His name is Evin Collis. Now, Evan is he created uh, um, an alternate comic called Litter Pig, and
Yeah.
he and you contribute cartoons for the Canadian Dimension and cartoon movement. And I discovered Evan's work in the cartoon movement maybe 2 or 3 months ago, which is why I want to talk to him now because I think his work is wonderful. So thank you for taking the time to talk to me today, Evan. And I hope it gets cooler where you're at right now.
Well, thanks so much, Angelo, and thanks for inviting me on. And no, it's great to be here.
Oh yeah, sure. Thank you, thank you. And I guess I'll start with my first question for you immediately. From your vantage point in Spain, how does the United States looks right now? Do we look crazy to you, or?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess as a Canadian, I mean, there's the United States always dominates, so much of the news in Canada, and of course, it's really not any different here. I mean, as a superpower, I mean, and especially, right now with Trump, it's like the mask's off. So, I
Yeah.
mean, it's a whole other level of acceleration and whatnot. And I mean, Uh, yeah, I guess so. I guess so. I mean, yeah, I don't know what else to say. I mean, it really, it's just like every day it's something else, that sort of takes over the headlines. And
Is it as much of a headache for you guys as it is for us in a way and stuff? Is sometimes the news goes by so with so much things happen at once, it's hard to keep up.
yeah, no, totally, totally. I mean, here, I mean, I guess when it comes to international news, like here in Spain, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's always happening here on the ground, within sort of Western Europe and the Mediterranean region. But of course, like the United States, they play a huge role all over, and the decisions that are made influence so many other communities and countries around the world. So, I mean, like here, for example, I mean, with the Iran, war, that was a big um, sort of point of discussion and debate here because the Spanish Pedro Sanchez, the leader of Spain, he basically refused to allow, at least in principle, any U.S. Military like airplanes to stop in the bases here if they were participating in that military campaign in Iran, which was like a quite, I guess, more forward and like what's the word? Sort of defiant tone towards the United States that doesn't normally happen because normally like in Europe people are very submissive and pervasive here politically to the United States ultimately. And so for Spain to take that position, they were kind of on their own a bit. Um, so yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I'm curious. Did the threat to invade Greenland change Europe's attitudes toward? I mean, and here it was a big deal and stuff. We were wondering why is he doing this and stuff. How did that affect Europe and stuff? Did that
yeah, no,
threat?
I think it concerned a lot of people here in Europe. I know in Canada too, for example. I mean, with that sort of context, I'm maybe more connected to the Canadian side of things because I mean, um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the idea is, Greenland should be its own sovereign nation, right? I mean, there's still basically a protectorate or a colony of Denmark, which I think is problematic for many other reasons. But and so I mean Europe sort of getting involved too. I mean I don't know. I saw like a sort of sense of like paternalism there, of European paternalism, saying like, oh no, but this is still ours. This is still ours. Whereas the sovereign people of Greenland itself, they should be allowed to speak for themselves and decide for themselves. And I mean, even in Canada's north too, there's lots of issues surrounding that as well with the indigenous peoples there, and sort of the ongoing colonial government in Canada sort of imposing their will and dominance on them for the resources and you know uh, the Northwest Passage, the trade routes and all that are opening up with climate change. I mean, I think it's going to be a conversation that just keeps getting louder and louder as the years go on.
I'm curious since you mentioned Iran. Has high gas prices really affected Spain or?
Sorry, you cut out. I don't know if my volume's
So
working that
let
well.
me
Let me
ask you
try
about,
and
since you mentioned Iran, has high gas prices affected Spain?
okay, yeah, I heard you now. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that's definitely influenced a lot of fuel prices here and other sort of reciprocal. Um, yeah, yeah, like across the board. So
Wait, you know, okay. I wanted to ask something else. One of the reasons I ask is I just love your cartoon style and stuff. It's very unique and stuff. I notice your cartoon style focuses more on the power of the image rather than the cleverness of a gag and stuff. So I have two questions about that. How did you get interested in cartooning? And I'm really curious to know who are your cartoonist influences?
okay, yeah, no, I mean, I guess as a kid I was always drawing, and so cartoons were always, a great source of inspiration, as far as like image reading and all of that, the accessibility, the characters, the humor, the storytelling, all of that really appealed to me. Um, for a significant part of my childhood, I didn't have a television at our house, so I mean, I kind of just got really into just drawing a lot, and just passing my time just drawing and making up stories and drawing. And then I think just over in time, that kind of snowballed into sort of later on, making zines and little comics and sharing those with friends and collaborating with friends on different projects like that.
Yeah,
And I later went on to study art and whatnot. And I mean, there I think I really got introduced to people like James Gilray, for example, or the
oh,
British
yeah.
caricaturists,
British satirists.
of
Yeah,
yeah, exactly, of I guess it'd be like 18th century, and also like Onan Daumier. Like there's so many other people that like I really, the classics that I really got into. Love the Line, Goya too.
yeah,
That sort of the movement, the line, the grotesque, the carnivalesque, and a lot of the work too that really appealed to me. Big
yeah,
fan of like the underground North American cartoons like S. Clay Wilson, Robert Crumb, Spain Rodriguez,
yeah.
that whole movement too, like the Zap comics.
You're a big
Yeah,
fan
so
of
I mean,
Trash Man, right?
that really got into my skin, and like I just, from there just kept sort of exploring it and playing with it and making stuff.
Yeah. When I look at your work, it pays to linger on in your cartoons and stuff. Or like some cartoons, you just look at it at a glance, you get the message, and then that's it. But with your cartoons, it pays for the viewer to linger because you see details and stuff. And your cartoons to me work almost like a mural, like a Diego Rivera
Cool.
mural. So like
Oh yeah.
so Rivera, when you look at his stuff, the more you look at and stuff, the more you catch and stuff, the details and stuff. Because I notice with you, you love texture. You're
Yeah.
very textured, and your work has layers and stuff. Is that? Have you ever thought of doing a mural? Or because I mean, your cartoons are almost like murals in a way.
Yeah, no, thanks. I mean, I love that comparison. I'm a big fan of the Mexican muralists. Yeah, no, I mean the symbolism, the layers, the iconography, sort of playing with the image and all those different levels is something that really interests me. Big fan of like medieval painting too for that, and all the different sort of little tricks people put in and the little characters hiding in there.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, no, I mean I've painted big before. Not quite well, I mean, yeah, a few meters by a few meters, so fairly big. But no, I haven't done like a specific public mural before, but it is something that would interest me for sure.
yeah.
And it's a medium of work that I think is, related to cartooning in other ways. Is sort of the dissemination, getting things out there to the public, sort of restricting barriers to sort of the accessibility of the artwork too. So I mean, there's lots there that I think um, you could play with.
Yeah. How long does it take to do your cartoons? I mean, because it's so detailed and stuff.
Yeah, it takes a little while sometimes. So I mean, like if I go real fast, I could get one done in a day, maybe, like doing all the ink at least, because I use a Croquill pen and India ink, so like dipping it and drawing right on the page. They're normally about like A3 in size. Um,
Okay.
so yeah, so I mean, it takes a little while, and the color on the political cartoons that I published through Canadian Dimension and on Cartoon Movement, those are all colored with Photoshop.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, normally for me, it's like a day to do the ink if I can dedicate like, 10 hours on the ink and then maybe a day on the color, depending on the complexity.
Yeah.
Um, So it takes a bit of time, but I mean it's kind of that I kind of love sort of obsessing over the details and
Yeah, yeah. It's sort
stuff
of
like
an
the little
OCD thing,
subplots.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
I'm the
totally,
same thing.
totally.
I like the textures and stuff. I notice my eyes tend to get a little, sore afterwards and stuff. I was thinking of like simplifying my style, but I'm just too. I love cross hatching too much right now and stuff. So
That's great. No, I'm the same way. It's like I'm a maximalist, you know. So it's kind of to sort of reduce sometimes it's really trying for me. But yeah.
yeah,
But
yeah,
no, texture is totally a thing. And I see that in your work as well.
yeah, yeah. Do you
Hmm.
like, how, okay, you're supposed to, like, if you spend too much time in detail, then you spend like a couple minutes just staring out in the distance. Does that help your eyes and stuff or no?
Yeah, no, I mean, what is it like? Is it like the 20-minute rule or something they say? No,
Yeah,
like
yeah, 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 yeah. Because it's
yeah,
like,
or if you're staring
I
at a
mean,
screen.
if
I
you look at
mean,
my glasses are pretty thick and stuff because
yeah, mine keep getting thicker every few years, but I mean, I don't know. I think it's I don't remember it when I'm working on the work. You know, when you just get sucked in and absorbed by the work you're working on, or you're just looking at the time and you're like, oh shit, you know, I have to be
yeah,
here in 2 hours, or I have to go to work or do this other thing, you know, then you're just just hammering at it. And I don't know about you, but I have a tendency of I catch myself sometimes, or my girlfriend will walk in the room and my face is like down at the paper basically, and it's like I'm not even cognizant, you know?
I used to be that way. I'm
Yeah.
trying hard, not because I'm in my I'm almost 60 and stuff. So I have to be more careful about my eyesight now than before and stuff because I don't want to be any more nearsighted than I already am and
Okay.
stuff. And I have a feeling that my artwork has led me to this sad road.
We could be cursed for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Crumb too, so I partially blame him and
Yeah.
stuff and stuff. But oh, okay, okay. So okay, next question for you and stuff. Have you finished with this or this question or?
Yeah, I think so, unless there's something else you want me to reference.
No, 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 that's okay and stuff. But yeah, I'm a fan of a lot of. I'm a big fan. You know the Goya's Los Capriccios.
Yeah, yeah, those are great. And his Disasters of War series really, really, really impactful as well.
Yeah, it's impactful, but it's painful to. It's such a horrific series in a
It
way.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Oh
it's
yeah, but
interesting. I was,
you're in Spain. You get to see it.
yeah.
Oh, so did you see the originals then?
Yeah, I have seen an original edition. I mean, there's a really amazing museum in Zaragoza, which is like I'm in
Oh,
Barcelona, so that's really not too far away. It's just the next province over in Aragon. And he's if I'm not mistaken, he's from there. And if I'm not mistaken, Goya also went blind, didn't he?
he went
Eventually,
deaf.
no? He
He
went
went
deaf?
deaf.
Okay,
I
okay,
don't
then
know if he
maybe that's
went blind, but I know he went deaf because
because I know like the black paintings, maybe that was when he was deaf. Okay, maybe I'm mistaken. Sorry. But anyways, yeah, they have an amazing collection there of a lot of his work. And so I had the privilege to see it there.
yeah, it clicked in my
Um,
mind. Wait a minute, you're in Spain, so you must have seen some original Goyas and stuff. So okay,
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean it's a real treat. I mean that's kind of um yeah, like one of the really special things about being here. And if you're into sort of that type of art history, there's a lot, you know, from the Baroque and medieval Gothic, you know, right through. And even, you know, underground comics in Spain had a real strong scene here as well.
oh,
Kind of parallel to what was happening, like where you are in San Francisco. There was kind of a, you know, in Barcelona, a bit of a
oh,
parallel
yeah.
movement in like the 60s and 70s here too, which is kind of neat.
I'm
Yeah.
surprised because of the dictatorship at that time.
Yeah, well, I mean, when the dictatorship, I mean, Franco, I think that died in 75, if I'm not mistaken. And I think like after then it really blew up. So I mean, from what I
Oh,
understand, like Madrid was kind of the focus of a lot of the music that was kind of going on and avant-garde at the time. And then Barcelona was like the graphic arts and
oh,
especially like comics and stuff. So there was like a famous magazine called El Víbora. And yeah, lots of great people collaborated on that. And then they also, I think they were translating work from Crumb and from the Zap Comics collaborators as well.
yeah.
So
Okay. Because
yeah, kind
I'm
of
just
neat
thinking that must have
conversation.
been very brave of them to do it during the time of Franco and stuff. So,
Yeah, no, there's like some really, really neat work that was made kind of around that time or just after. Like there's this one cartoonist called Nazario, and he did a lot of really neat work kind of exploring like the underground of Barcelona, especially like through the perspective of like a homosexual man. Um, And so yeah, it's pretty amazing and he kind of gets into like all these other sort of subcultures of Barcelona at the time. And
I'm gonna have to look them
yeah.
up.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'd recommend it. Yeah.
Nazario? Nazario.
Nazario. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Maybe send me an email now, spelling his name out and stuff,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, totally. Yeah, I could do that.
Okay. So my next question and stuff. Now you from your experiences working as a porter in the Canadian transcontinental and
Hmm.
your more recent experiences doing social work, how have those experiences shaped your views on history, imperialism, um, industrialization, I guess decay, and the contradictions of progress and stuff? I got that from your website. So,
Yeah, no, I mean, those are all sort of like larger themes that I think about a lot and that I kind of investigate in my work and so I guess as a when I was in my early 20s, I worked as a porter, yeah, on the Canadian Transcontinental Railroad. I'm from Winnipeg originally, which is in the center of Canada, more or less in the province of Manitoba, which would be like for your listeners in the United States, it'd be about a 5 hour drive straight north of Fargo, if I'm not mistaken. uh Fargo, North Dakota. So it's yeah, so it's yeah, in the prairies, the middle of the prairie. Well, they call it the gateway of the prairies. And so the train there that I'd work on, it would go to Vancouver, which would be, I think, if I remember correctly, like two and a half days to get there, and then to Toronto, which would be like 2 days as well. And so if you were going there and back, you'd be gone 5 days or a week. I also worked on this one line that would go up to Churchill, Manitoba, which is where there's the only like Arctic port in Canada, and that's in northern Manitoba, like straight north of Winnipeg, and that would take like 2 to 3 days because the train would go like 30 kilometers an hour at times, and the line would be really, yeah, wobbly, disrepair, going over muskeg. So basically, yeah, like swamp, bog, and yeah, that job. I mean, it really sort of opened up my eyes in a lot of ways. Because you see the landscape and the vastness and the expansiveness of Canada, of the country, and you see sort of the ghosts of colonialism. I mean, there still is a colonialism that's ongoing in Canada, but you see like the railroad really was an instrument of domination of Western Canada, when it was built. When basically, the British Canadians were afraid that the United States was going to seize that land, west of what would be now Ontario. And they moved on it, and for them to get a railroad built was kind of a means to kind of secure that land, but then also a means to slaughter all the bison and suppress and dominate the indigenous nations that were out there. And so there were all these, the railroad really represents all of these different dark chapters of history in a way, Also later on, after, the Europeans took over and they basically forced the indigenous peoples to sign treaties and took the land, they were then used to transport grain all across and other materials. Basically, like that's what the port of Churchill in northern Manitoba is it was famous for, is really like a lot of the grain from the prairies would go up there and then it would be shipped off to England, I think, or to Europe, and it was a very quick route for them to get it there, then to take it through to Montreal, and then all the way across and out. So, and now there's a lot of talk with the port of Churchill, with like the what's the word for it? Like the sea ice, isn't frozen year round anymore like it used to be up in northern Canada. And so they're already thinking of, there could be shipping routes going year round in a matter of time, and also access to all the minerals that are up there as well. But yeah, so seeing all of that, seeing the land, seeing the communities, seeing the people, the trains divided in classes. So you're really like, you have like people who pay for what do you call it, first class, they have their own bathroom and they have their own bedroom, and then there's others who they don't even get to shower for 5 days on the train because they're up in the front, and they, you know what I mean? So it's like really it's kind of feudal in that way. Um, I could go on for a long time about the train, but yeah.
there's a movie by a South Korean director and stuff.
Snowpiercer.
Yeah, with Chris Evans and stuff. It sounds kind of like that in a way.
I guess maybe more like, yeah, domesticated Canadian version, but yeah, like I mean, it's not as violent in that way, but yeah, but no, I mean, really, the essence of the train is that, I mean, you get on and if you pay so much amount of money, you get a ticket or a seat with these conditions, and then you pay more, you get a ticket or an experience with those conditions.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of things, I guess in our sort of capitalist economy are kind of constructed around that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just a bit more in your face when you're on the train, you can't get off the train. You're all together like a community, sort of encapsulated, sort of rocketing across the landscape.
Yeah.
And
So the socioeconomic divides that are in Canada in general, you really see it within the train.
yeah, yeah, no, in a way it's sort of encapsulated a bit. And you know, of course, there's a lot of people that are in the first class that are tourists coming from, you know, different parts of Canada or from the United States or from Europe or Japan. And then, you know, a lot of the people in the domestic class or the, you know, the economy class, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's a mix of you know, some people traveling for tourism, but oftentimes it's people who are workers trying to get to communities, people from small communities trying to get back home or trying to get to doctor's appointments. Like,
Yeah.
especially up in the north of Canada, you know, there's communities that don't have regular medical care or doctors, and so they need to take the train to go, you know, to
Yeah,
do
this
some of
sounds
those
similar to
events.
in China. China has something like that where,
Oh,
you know,
really?
some of the poor workers would go from the provinces to the cities and stuff. There was a document. I didn't watch the documentary, but I read the review. It's one of the, you know, you have some movies where you want to watch, but you just haven't had time and stuff. But I
Yeah.
it sounds similar where workers go from the provinces to the cities where there's jobs because the provinces and the farms are where you know there's no economic opportunities, so they have to go to so there's this mass migration of millions of workers going from the city. But so if the trains you know stop and stuff, that would really have a hindrance. But there's a social costs, I guess, of traveling
Hmm.
train and having to work so far away from your home. Is
That's
that a
it.
similar thing? Stuff the social
In
cost.
Canada, yeah, no, I mean, in different parts, I mean, like I guess, like in the oil sands, like in northern Alberta, like,
Yeah.
I mean, before I remember, I don't know what it's like now. I'm a little bit out of the loop, but largely it was maritimers from the eastern coast of Canada that would go out and work there, and you'd have like fathers and sons going out there to work because their own communities were so impoverished, there wasn't any work,
And
and so
it's
they would literally travel. It'd be like going from, I don't know, like you know, Rhode Island or something like that, all the way to Montana. That'd be kind of the similar distance, you know, these communities would go to work there
uh,
and then go back. And so there's a lot of that with resource extraction in Canada, even with the mines and all of that.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm curious. In the Philippines, indigenous population, you know, are struggling because you know, in the world economy, as they try to transition to a green economy, they need minerals and stuff.
Hmm.
And in the Philippines, nickel mining it has is becoming a thing where like since a lot of the nickel minerals are in indigenous lands and stuff, uh, uh, you know, multinational corporations are trying various means of kicking indigenous people out of their lands to get to the nickel and stuff, right? Is there a similar thing going on when you left? Is there a similar thing? Was there a similar thing? Are indigenous populations in Canada still going through a situation where corporations are trying to get at their land to get them the resources?
Totally.
It's
Yeah,
not
no,
just
it's
something that
it's never
happened.
stopped. It's never
Okay, okay,
stopped.
okay.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's constant. And I mean, right now, I mean, since Mark Carney was elected, I mean, he wants to build like pipelines, oil pipelines, and these pipelines need to pass through, you know, a lot of traditional indigenous territories, and it's quite divisive because a lot of people are against it, and the government seems quite intent on doing it. Obviously, the private corporations as well are quite intent on doing it. So there's lots of yeah, there's lots of friction, and no, it's a constant issue.
Is your social work that you're doing now,
Hmm.
is it offering new insights or is it just reinforcing the
No,
experience?
it for me it's constant. It's a constant education. I'm always learning. So
Okay.
right now I work as I'm on a street team, like an outreach team, working with the unhoused in Barcelona. And
Okay.
so yeah, I work for a foundation here. I mean, I started there as a volunteer about 5 years ago, and I've been now like pretty much full time for 2 years. And yeah, so we're basically visiting and accompanying and trying to sort of get resources and help the people who are sort of in situations of quite chronified homelessness in Barcelona.
Okay.
Um, and like every month, there's more and more and more people. because of there's a housing crisis here.
Oh,
It's being amplified by different factors. Yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal. Yeah, but I mean, and also an interesting thing to kind of compare from Canada to here, I find is like in Winnipeg, where I'm from, probably more than 70%, maybe 75% of the homeless community in Winnipeg are indigenous peoples, like homeless in their own lands, whereas
mhm.
here in Barcelona, I would say like upwards of 70% of the unhoused community are foreigners, as in they weren't born in Spain. So
Oh.
they're so there's kind of these, those kind of contrasts which sort of reflect the socioeconomic oppressions and realities, of the societies.
I'm curious, in Spain, is a lot of the homelessness reverberations of the 2008 crash and stuff, where before the 2008 crash, I saw this documentary where a lot of British people went to Spain uh,
Mm.
in the hopes that they would retire in Spain. But then the crash came, and is that sort of thing something new? Is the housing thing something new, or is it just something that's been ongoing and only getting
No,
worse?
no, I mean, like I'm not an expert on the 2008 crisis within Spain, but I think for sure there would be some sort of what's the word, sort of, there would be something connected to there, undoubtedly, but no, I mean, really, it's the cost of living here has really escalated a lot. Barcelona also is like a major tourist city. Airbnbs and sort of the prices of living, of accessing an apartment, like a rented apartment, have become very, very difficult. Also jobs too. I mean, it's difficult for the younger people. So you have people who are in their 30s still living with their parents. You have elders who work their whole lives who get a pension and they get kicked out of their apartment because they want to make a tourist apartment or something and they can't find a place to live. So you have, people like that ending up on the streets. You have lots of migrants that come to Spain looking for work and all that, and then they get basically just shut out of the system and they're stuck on the street, doing menial, like undocumented work, to try and get by. And so there's lots of young men, who are homeless for reasons such as that. Like it's a complex issue. But like ultimately I think it comes down to just people just can't get access to a place to live. And it's just more and more expensive and it's more and more out of people's reach. Like there are many people who are homeless in Barcelona who have full-time jobs.
It sounds like I live in Silicon Valley in California and stuff. This sounds like Silicon, but for Silicon Valley, it's been since the 80s and stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas my dad he was a cook, but he was able to afford a house in the 70s. But by the maybe 90s and stuff, because as it became more prosperous, a lot of the engineers were able to buy homes, but it became harder and harder for working class, workers who are not engineers or in the tech
Hmm.
industry to be able to buy a home and stuff. So like a friend of mine, she moved in the 90s. She said, once you move, it's very difficult to come back to Silicon Valley and stuff because of that. So yeah,
Yeah, the
sorry.
gentrification and everything. No, no, I mean it'd be very, very similar, I'm sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So, okay. Well, here, I just noticed I got a message saying we got 9 minutes left for this first meeting. If
Okay.
you put your mouse in the upper right corner, it'll tell you how much time is left. So let me ask
Oh,
one
okay. I see it.
question
Yeah, yeah.
before our first meeting and stuff is that you do puppetry and you
Hmm.
also do cutout animation, right? Am I right?
Yeah.
Now, I have a two-part question. One is, do you, I seen your animation in your website and it's wonderful, but do
Oh,
you
thanks.
um do you use your animation for political commentary? And then the second part, I'm asking this question because of some debates that I've seen among cartoonists on Facebook. As an animator yourself, what do you think of the ethics of a cartoonist using AI to animate their own cartoons and stuff? It was a heated debate among cartoonists a while back, and I'm just curious to know your opinion since you're an animator and stuff. So,
Yeah, no, I mean with animation, yeah, I mean I love animation and I do like a bit of experimental animation. So I've done, yeah, puppet animation as you were referencing and cutouts, which I really love. And yeah, some 2D sort of hand drawn as well and paint on glass. But yeah, I think everything I do sort of has a bit of a political um, edge to it in some way. I think everything is. I think no matter who makes it, there's always going to be something of your experience that's put into there that I think, will carry something political, whatever that might be. Um, so yeah. And you were asking then, was there something more to the animation question?
Oh yeah, just okay. So the first is you do some commentary, but also,
Yeah.
what do you think of the ethics of using AI
AI, no, I'm
for
against AI
cartoonists and stuff?
generally.
Because
Yeah.
to be honest, I'm not. I was reading the debates among cartoonists, and I haven't made
Yeah.
up my mind yet. But so I thought it'd be a good idea to ask somebody who's an actual animator. Some people think that using AI takes away jobs from animators and stuff, and
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
an argument against AI. You know.
I'm an antiquated animator in the sense that I do yeah, like paint on glass, for example, like you literally just
Yeah,
pushing
yeah.
paint on a panel of glass, you take a picture, you do it again, you
Oh,
take another picture,
yeah, yeah.
so it's I mean, yeah, it's antiquated. Also same with the cutouts, it's like you're literally playing, across the frame, moving the paper bit, articulating it, moving it again, moving it again.
It's a great
Um,
effect,
I
though, from what I
Yeah,
saw
no,
in the
I
movie.
thanks. I love it. I like the clumsiness of it. I love the materials. I'm a real process oriented person, when it comes to making my work.
Yeah.
It's kind of like feel like I don't mind spending 10 hours working on a cartoon, playing with, the pen and ink and it can be really tedious at times, but I mean, I don't know, I kind of
I
lose
think
lose
you
myself
and
in the work.
I think we both have OCD. I mean,
There you go.
yeah, yeah.
And so, and also I find, I don't know about you, Angelo, but for myself at least, like when I'm, working on a drawing or I'm working on an animation, sometimes I'll have a storyboard, sometimes not, or a bit of a direction where I'm going, but also I'm kind of open to allowing things to sort of come from the process. If I get another idea or I draw the hand and I'm like, actually, maybe the hand should be doing something else than how I have it depicted, or I should add this object in, or the head should be on this angle. And so there's always a bit of playing around and malleability to the work while it's being made. And I think same with my animation. It's the same kind of liberty and space I give myself when I'm working and I think with AI I'm against AI because yeah I think it takes away jobs and people want to work and people should be given the opportunity to work and to learn and to go through all of those processes and also I think there's no creativity in it. I mean really it's from what I understand it's basically just a sponge, that just sort of takes up the information that it's fed and then it just replicates it out according to some patterns
Oh, okay.
um, and I think that's not that's
Yeah.
not a path
I don't
forward.
have a strong opinion on this stuff. I'm just, but I'm asking just because I have a mind process where I want to hear different points of view before I make up my own mind and stuff.
Yeah,
What are the weaknesses in my own, argument and stuff? But it sounds to me like you're like slow moving jazz. In the one sense, you like the process, but on the other sense, you like to fix things as you go along. You like to make things up as you go along. So
totally.
even though you like the detailed and stuff, you also like the flexibility of change. So it's like, how jazz, you make things up as you go along. You're sort of like a
Hmm.
slow moving jazz when it comes to your process in a way.
Okay.
Am I describing that right? Or am I?
No, I mean, I think that's fine. Yeah, I never thought of it that way, but I mean, totally. I mean, there's a bit of that sort of, yeah, that fluidity and that movement, and I mean, yeah, I guess once it's out there, it's fixed in some way, but yeah, no, I like to play, more than anything when I'm working on something, and I don't like to go into something, knowing it has to be this way and has to look like that. I think, having the opportunity to sort of explore and investigate and toy around with it is what gives me some pleasure.
It just occurred to me. How do you find the time? I mean, if you're doing social work and then you're spending 10
Yeah,
hours doing your cartoon and stuff, how do you find the time to do all of
it's awful.
it?
I mean, no, I mean, ultimately, like the last 6 months have been really difficult to sort of dedicate the time with the cartoons and the other projects. But no, I mean, generally, I would just do like, stints. I go for so many months just working full time and then, take a few weeks and then just dedicate myself to my other projects. Sometimes I have a bit of flexibility with the hours. So if I go in later or if I start, at a different time, I have sort of a window where I can crack something out. So, and I mean, with Canadian Dimension, for example, I mean, they're great. They're really flexible, and
Okay.
they're always open to whenever I have something or an idea to sort of to receive it. And yeah, and with the other projects, it's just sort of hammering at it bit by bit. I mean, yeah, I mean, cartooning doesn't pay enough, so I do other things, and I enjoy the social work too. But it's a radically different sort of approach to it. I find like the essence sometimes of the political cartooning and the work there's a lot in common in some regards, but at the end of the day, like being in your apartment or in your studio drawing a picture to being on the ground with the people, trying to find some kind of solution to this problem, of finding someone on a roof to stay for the night, for example, I mean, are completely different.
No, but I mean, I'm sure it feeds your experiences in social feeds into it gives you like how you're supposed to think out of the box if you want to do your best work and stuff. I'm sure that
Yeah.
social work gives you experiences that you never would have had before that feeds into your
No,
career.
totally. I mean, you meet so many different interesting people. I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
you hear so many stories. You're constantly observing and listening,
yeah,
and I mean that, of course, finds, it enters you in different ways, and I mean the good things and the really difficult, sad, disturbing things that you witness or you see or you know, um, you hear. So I mean, it's a lot, but I think it's also, I mean, as someone who does political cartoons, I'm sure I'd be curious what you think about this too. But I mean, I think um, it's kind of important to be grounded and to be, with the people in the society that you participate in, and kind of in tune with that. And to me, sort of this kind of work that I'm doing, like it's always in education. It's something I feel strongly about. There are issues that affect me deeply, and you see the results, and you see how political or corporate decisions, how they affect people, like really, like devastate people, or however you want to call it. And so I mean, it's yeah, it's something to be, I guess, be aware of, and to take a side, and to get involved how you must.
well,
Hey,
you came back. Thank you.
yeah,
Okay. Okay. I forgot. What were you asking me again?
I think
Before.
we were sorry, yeah, no, I think we were talking about how, I guess, like as someone who makes, social commentary or politically oriented artwork, like I feel like sort of there's sort of an obligation or a need to sort of to have your pulse on the society that you're participating in, and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, I think, the reason I do these talks and stuff is when I've had conversations with cartoonists and stuff, one of the things I notice is, what you're talking about. They're very aware and stuff. I think the common denominator I hear with you and with a lot of cartoonists, they just care and stuff.
Hmm.
They care about what's going on in their communities. They care about what's going on in the nation, and they care. There's a sense of you know social justice, is sort of a term we always use, but I think they just care. There's a sort of empathy for for other people and other communities and people different from us and stuff, and a sense of our shared humanity and stuff. And I think that's you try to convey that in your cartoons. I do cartoons on America and the Filipino American because I care. I
Yeah,
care about the Philippines. I've only been in the Philippines 1 month my entire life, but because my heritage is from the Philippines, and because a lot of my relatives are from the Philippines, I just care and stuff.
yeah,
You know, and when I see when I see um, you know human rights abuses in the Philippines and stuff, I care about how that affects the nation and stuff. When when we seem to be going back on the road to right wing authoritarianism. I mean, it could be left wing authoritarianism too, but in the Philippines case, it's right wing authoritarianism. Um, you know, I don't want that to happen because we already know what the consequence of that is and stuff. For other people, it may be different things and stuff. But you know, uh, when you do a cartoon against injustice, basically, you know this is going to hurt people and stuff unfairly, right, and stuff. So I don't know. Does that describe? Is that a similar motivation for you in terms of your cartoons and stuff? Is
Yeah, no,
just
I think you encapsulated it well. No, I mean, yeah, you're reacting to something. No, you feel a need or um yeah, you have something to say, and you want to share that and communicate with other people.
yeah,
That's how I feel about it, at least. And sometimes it's a way to sort of vent out frustration. Um, yeah, no, and I think it's a delicate thing too, kind of like what you're saying. Like sometimes the drawings you're gonna make, you're not get some people aren't gonna like them, obviously, and that's okay,
yeah,
But and sometimes that's the point. But I think yeah, I mean that's you got to be true to whatever it is you're trying to say and those ideals. Like I heard something recently about um what's it called? Oh, I'm just drawing a blank right now. Sorry.
okay, okay, that's okay. That's okay. When you think of it again and stuff, just let me know. And
Yeah,
stuff.
no, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and I like what he had to say. It was I made a note of it. Yeah, it was passionate sarcasm. That was it. And
Oh,
um
oh, okay.
and and it was Antonio Gramsci who said it, and I guess it was kind of a way of basically like to sort of communicate against, I guess, elitist sarcasm, which would be sort of punching down and to sort of like how you would punch up, and also not to so to sort of to create critique, I guess, more of the power structure and the systems at large, than as no more lampooning a certain character
Yeah,
or the base of the people that are kind of oftentimes victims of that as well, and I kind of liked what he said about that, and yeah, no, I thought it was an interesting choice of words, even though I'd managed to forget it and blank there for a second. But yeah, like passionate sarcasm, and yeah. So
yeah,
I
you
think
know,
there's an essence in there that I think is something that could be a tool.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of making fun of vulnerable groups, we make
Well,
fun of the
well,
groups
I
that,
mean, yeah, I think we should never punch down, but I mean, for example, like if say you're critiquing, Trump, or in Canadian circumstance, it could be like Pierre Poilievre, and I think it's fine to satirize these characters and caricaturize them, but if
yeah,
that's all you do, or you're just sort of replicating these kind of stereotypes, or
yeah,
um, these sort of portrayals, then at a certain point we're just going to continue to polarize people, and we're not going to be able to connect with them, and
yeah,
really what we need to do is connect to people who think differently than us, and try and share that really we have more in common than that sets us apart, and try and use that as a hook to bring people in
yeah.
to share another possibility, another perspective, and another way of thinking about it.
Yeah, that's sort of like the Democratic, as cartoonists. I forgot who said this. One of these cartoonists I talked to said that, and we're defending American democracy. We're well, in my case, American democracy, but in the Philippines, democratic aspirations and stuff. And in doing so, democracies require us to be able to communicate with people with far different views than us and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, but in attacking power and stuff. Like with my cartoons, I have to admit, I have been guilty this past year in focusing a lot on Trump and stuff. But
Hmm.
before then, my focus has been usually on issues. What's going on with the indigenous communities? What's going on with Filipino American immigrants? How does this particular policy affects this particular, a particular vulnerable group and stuff, um, you know, um, um, y- y- yeah, yeah. I'm trying to. I agree with what you're saying. I have a thought, but I don't know how to articulate my thought. Let me, where you know, Goya's Los Capriccios. You
Hmm.
don't you don't see Napoleon in any of those prints. What you see is the consequence of horrific war. What is the dark side of war? You,
Yeah.
is that Los Capricios, or that is that Am I getting? But I know in his print series and stuff, you know, as opposed to um, I don't know if Gilray was he caricaturing uh, leaders or was he caricaturing
Yeah, no,
human
I mean
nature?
he totally. I
Okay,
mean, I think
okay,
he was
okay,
skewering the French a lot, I think, and various
yeah,
sort
like
of.
so like Daumier, he did skewer the French king, but
Mhm.
he Daumier also was skewering human nature.
Well, that's it exactly. And like, I'm not against caricaturizing Trump. I'm all for it, and
Yeah,
and
yeah,
all of these characters that kind of support and normalize, what he does. But it's to me, it's like, for example, like not to go after the little guy that supports Trump, that really,
yeah,
maybe lost his home and, you know, hasn't had an opportunity to sort of access different media or different ways of thinking about it for whatever means, like that world is limited, and sort of to sort of maybe come from a point of empathy to some of these people and present something else and realize that really this person
yeah,
isn't serving their best interests and is
yeah,
actually, just, they're being used essentially. And so I think like to kind of go after that structure of the power, or to go after, all of those things that enable that sort of greater web or constellation that holds up these figures and the abuses and injustices that they're incurring, throughout the United States or across the world, whatever it might be. And I think that's a bit of a challenge, because I think it's easier to just, draw a fat orange man and say like, hey, point done. But I think to go beyond that, I think that's where there could be some more interesting work and more difficult conversations. And how do we approach that? Because also, I think in this world, you kind of mentioned it before, like, I mean, this is kind of like a digitization. There's less and less newspapers. People don't look at images the way they used to, right? Like, I was thinking, if we want to go back to Goya, for example, you know, like, imagine, looking at his black paintings, and how 100 years ago somebody would walk into that room and see his black paintings, and they would sit there and they would spend hours maybe looking at a
yeah,
couple paintings,
yeah.
and they
Well,
would take that
if you're
time.
a house guest in his house and stuff, you have no choice. It's like,
Sure, exactly. But somebody who willingly set themselves up for it. But yeah, but I mean that's it. It's sort of a slow read and observation, and
yeah,
and really sort of looking at the paint, or really looking at the image. And then now, I mean, with everything from Instagram to, I don't know, all the other social media, the news we consume, the internet, like, how many images do you figure we see in a day? Like, I have no
yeah, yeah.
idea.
This
And
actually. Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
no, but I just to get back to that, it's like, to really to make an image like that that really kind of gets at all of those different points, is challenging, especially when, we have a public that is being trained to have the attention span of like a couple seconds,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's really difficult.
This actually, what you're saying actually leads to my next question and stuff. So let me ask it, but you can continue your thought and stuff because I've been thinking about this too and stuff. But okay, this is actually the last question and stuff. But as you're mentioning about short attention span and the power of the image and stuff, this is a two-part question actually. Is um, do you still think political cartoons had that sort of power and influence during this time of the decline of newspapers and with authoritarianism you know on the rise and stuff, and what are the strengths and limitations of the political cartoon today and stuff? You're starting to mention it and stuff, but you know
Yeah,
um, but you can continue your thought and stuff. One of my things I was thinking is that what's is does the power of a single panel cartoon as opposed to multi-panel cartoons, are there certain strengths and weaknesses? Because from what I've seen of your work, you're mostly single panel, right?
yeah. I mean, the political, like, editorial cartoons are all single panel. I mean, I do other comic work too, but on these themes, yeah, they're all single panel. Yeah, I mean, I think visual critique always will have a space. I think it's primordial a bit in humanity. You think of the cave paintings and everything like that. People are constantly trying to tell stories or depict something, share something of the human experience with others. But I think in some ways, I don't know. I mean, the internet has opened many doors, and also sort of,
Yeah,
siphoned things off in so many ways, or bottlenecked it, however you want to call it. And I think we're in an especially challenging time for that. But I think there is a large appetite for that, for political cartoons and for images in general. My concern is just kind of what I was getting back at. It's just that these algorithms and the social media, it's like they're training us, they're kind of constructed to just be
Yeah.
totally like just a blur, a second. You just consume the image and you move on to the next image. So people don't linger on images like they used to, say, if it was in print in front of you. Or I mean, I think there could be an interface developed that you would spend more time looking at an image on a glowing screen. I mean, I don't know exactly how that all works, how you do it all, but I mean, I think there could be different ways to kind of make that more accessible as an experience. I know, like with Canadian Dimension, like they used to be in print, but since I think the pandemic, it's all online now. So those
Well,
cartoons only exist on their website. And how many people visit the website, I'm not really sure. It goes on social media and whatnot, and however many people see it. But yeah, um, I think it is important that people keep making these images and getting them out there. I just kind of worry about the means right now because I think we're kind of in a moment where, kind of like you were saying, like print industry is greatly reduced, and social media is being run by a handful of far right collaborationists, it
yeah,
seems,
yeah,
more and
yeah.
more.
And I'm curious though, from what you're describing, a lot of the online trends seem to go against your particular kind of cartoon strengths. For
Mm,
me, you know, your cartoons benefit from people lingering over your images and stuff. And from what you're describing, the online trends seem to go very much against that and stuff,
totally.
and stuff. Okay, this is something I've been thinking about. Are you looking for a particular audience rather than a more widespread audience? Because you basically want a following that's willing to linger through your work and stuff, right? But with me, I don't mind if a lot of people look at my work, but I'm trying particularly to find a Filipino American audience, and I'm not being successful so far. But that's my cartoons, I'm hoping are gearing towards that particular audience and stuff. So, some of my cartoons may not make sense to somebody who's not within that. Do you understand what I'm saying and
No, I
stuff?
understand exactly what you mean. Yeah, and I mean, as a Canadian currently living here in Catalonia, like I mean, I'll make a cartoon for Canadian Dimension and show it to my friends here, and like there's a lot of references that they won't understand, understandably normally, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, but who is the public? I mean, yeah, I think if you get down to sort of like an aesthetic level, like yeah, I hope people who find the work, and if they enjoy the work, it's people who like details. It's
yeah,
who
yeah,
want to
yeah,
spend time looking through the image. It's there's a lot hidden in there, like what do you call it? Like those I Spy books or something. If you want to invest the time to look
yeah,
around the image, normally there's little treats hidden away. Yeah, if you read it like if on an Instagram or whatever screen going through quickly, like yeah, maybe you'll get a sense of the image in a few seconds, but you're not going to get the whole image. You're not going to get the whole narrative or the story. And I mean that's kind of a bit of what can I say? I mean, I guess I just sort of accept that, because I mean
Oh,
I'm
okay,
kind of
okay.
confined to sort of play in that space, to get my work out there right now. But
The nature of your cartoons determines the kind of readership you get, I guess.
yeah, no, I think that's it too. In Canadian Dimension, I mean, it's a very left wing press, and so I mean, the people that will come to find that are often people where, largely will agree on many things, not everything, obviously, but many things, yeah. So I mean, through that outlet, like yes, I'll find part of my public, perhaps people that might share ideological points, but also in that same sense, it's a bit I don't want to say niche, but I mean, it's not getting the greater public that like a larger newspaper would have,
Yeah,
that would have maybe a more liberal or more mainstream sort of viewpoint, for example. And so yeah, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, to me, I like making the work. Maybe you feel the same way. The work's important to make, and finding the
yeah.
audience, I think, is a challenge for me too. But I feel more. I don't know. It's like what do you call it?
It's a kind of love
So
of the craft and stuff, you know?
yeah, yeah, it's like I just want to make the work. I don't want to be like worried about marketing myself or publicize. You know what I mean? Like I hate those words and like I don't like it's just like the cool thing that I like, here in like the zine culture here in Barcelona especially, I mean, is really strong. So I mean, going to these festivals and people just sort of make zines, photocopy zines or however you want to do it and get them out there. I mean, I think that's really cool. And I think there's
Um,
something really current and really sort of like active about that culture and
yeah,
of course it's very politicized culture too, and I think it's neat to see print continuing in that sort of climate, that culture. I know in
yeah, yeah.
Canada there's a bit of that too. It kind of depends where you are. I know in like Chicago there's a big zine culture too, but
There used to be in San Francisco, but I don't know if it's still around and stuff because I'm not as connected anymore and stuff. But there used to be like maybe 10, maybe 15 years ago and stuff. But I'm not
yeah,
sure if it is anymore and stuff. But see, since I'm old, I'm at least 10 years older than that generation and stuff. I always feel like like when talking to you even and stuff, I feel like I'm catching up and stuff. That rather than I'm listening to the younger generation, I'm trying to think, you know, and learn and stuff. So it's nice to know. Do you feel it's important to be a part of a cartoonist community then and stuff? Does it enrich you?
yeah. I mean, I think it's always been a source of like inspiration and like fulfillment in other ways, but having a community where you can share, you can confide in, you can debate things. I mean, I think is a real strength
Yeah,
on so many different levels, like as on an ideological level, intellectual level, aesthetic level for the work. I think it really creates a dynamic scene
yeah.
and so yeah, here, like, I mean, there's a really, really great zine culture that is, I mean, it's pretty awesome and great to be a part of, for the different festivals and whatnot. And it's very accessible too,
Oh,
very international, people coming from all over, and then again, all walks of life too. You have like kids doing zines, and you've got people in their 70s making zines, and so it's a really kind of awesome, conjuncture.
oh, that's so
And
cool.
yeah, no, I mean, to me, it's been really, really thrilling to kind of be part of that since I've come out here. And for print media too, I think like there's something kind of connected to that and kind of like the activist level of it. Like here too, it's like very common. Like I mean, Barcelona is a very politicized city. People will go out and wheat paste posters, and put them
Oh,
up
yeah, yeah,
wherever
yeah,
all the
yeah.
time. And I'm sure in San Fran that goes on too. And I mean, I think that's another way too to sort of bring the image out into the public, kind of like and get it out there for people to see and consider. Because I mean, I think like,
Yeah,
on
yeah.
these social media algorithms or whatever you want to call it, there are limitations, but to see a work put out there, I mean, then you might
Yeah, yeah.
consider it differently.
I'm curious. What you said, mate. What you're saying, art community. In the Philippines during the martial law period, there were artist collectives that would screen print or their work, and then when the police are gone and stuff, they would paste it on the walls and stuff, and then as a sort of defiance against the martial law, the Marcos government. Is that what you're talking about? Are you talking about like an artist collective, a cartoonist
I
collective?
mean, it could be, yeah. I mean, it could be collectives or it could just be groups of people that come together, to
Oh,
share,
okay.
So I mean, yeah, I think it could be many different things. Like, I mean, yeah, I mean, collectives of that sort, I mean, I always find very interesting and I mean, I guess kind of when work falls into that collectivity, the individual artist name often falls off, and I think that's kind of an interesting project too.
Yeah,
Um, but I guess it kind of depends on what the end goals are, of the collective, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Franco's no longer around, so you don't have to worry. You don't
No,
have to be
no, I
worried
mean,
about being buried in a ditch or something.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, it's a recent history here too, much like in the Philippines. So I mean, people here,
yeah,
they still talk about that time like it wasn't, and there's people, who've been in prison not that long ago for things that went on,
yeah. They're
under
still
that
alive, right? Some of them are
dictatorship.
still alive, right?
Yeah,
So,
many people, because I mean, it ended in 75, and I mean, they're still finding, graves and whatnot too. So,
yeah.
um, Yeah, it's right under the surface. Yeah.
Yeah, I read somebody told me that that sort of trauma from authoritarianism, it takes a few generations for that trauma to be gone and stuff. So what's that, two or three generations and stuff, a couple. So you're still within that range of trauma and stuff.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, here for yeah, general population. Totally.
okay,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
well, I wish the best for them and stuff. So
Yeah,
okay,
of course.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
same.
Okay. Well, thank you and stuff. I tried to make sure we're a little bit over. I apologize for that.
No, this is great. Thank you so much, Angelo, for
Okay. Sure.
everything. Yeah. And
Okay.
what are you working on right now, if I can ask?
I just started a Substack because a lot of cartoonists, kind of urged me to start it, but I really don't know what I'm doing. So I'm trying to figure that out. But right now I'm focused on a couple things. One of the things I'm focused on is because I was mentioning about the indigenous people in the Philippines. A couple of months ago in April, there was a clash between the Philippine military and some insurgents in the island of Negros, and 10 civilians got killed and stuff. And so and one of a few of them were Filipino American activists. And the reason they're there is that they would go to the Philippines to find out what are the conditions with the various indigenous and poor people in the Philippines. So, like, one issue is the issue of landless peasants, getting exploited by property owners and stuff in haciendas and stuff, because there's a lot of sugar that's produced there. But there's sort of like a long history of peasants being exploited and stuff, and that's probably from the Spanish days, but continuing under American colonialism. And it's never really left and stuff. There was attempts at land reform and stuff, but the land reform kind of stalled. So a lot of these landless peasants are being, they work in the land, they get very poor wages and stuff. And so these activists are trying to figure out how do you, get them, you know, um, in a situation where they have a fair shake, I guess, where they're not being exploited. And there's also the case where in indigenous lands in the Philippines, a lot of their land is full of rich natural resources. And so multinational corporations and then the government itself have been trying to drive a lot of these indigenous people off of their land to get at the rich natural resources. So I've been focused a lot of my cartoons on those two issues and stuff. And also just Trump. I
Yeah,
focused a lot
totally.
on Trump and stuff, but not just on Trump, but on how Trump's policies negatively affect certain vulnerable communities. So, like the
Totally.
immigrant community, the transgender community. I found out recently that for transgender community, the focus has been a lot on bathrooms and sports, but if among detained transgender immigrants, the Trump administration took away rape protection against transgender immigrant, you know, detained people and stuff. And they've also stopped counting how many transgender detained immigrants there are. So, for one, you don't know how many transgender immigrants are being detained, and two, they no longer have protections against rape against them, and they're already one of the more vulnerable communities to rape and stuff. There's a high prevalence of rape among transgender prisoners and stuff, and so taking away whatever protections were there and stuff really makes them very vulnerable. But that's just
No,
something I'm starting to learn and stuff. So um, um, yeah, how's so that's sort of I'm doing a lot of research, but I have to take a break sometimes because it kind of affects my mental health reading
of
about all
course.
these bad news and stuff. I'm sure it does you too and stuff, right?
Yeah,
So
no, I mean the social work. I mean, yeah, I mean sometimes it's it's a lot, and trying to make space for that, to kind of process it all, and then to kind of also go back to your life outside of that, and not have that sort of influence everything you do or your other relationships. I mean, it can be challenging
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah. So
And yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I like stupid comedies and stuff, like I like to laugh and stuff,
No, it's good. Yeah.
So I try to take breaks once in a while just to do that and stuff. So okay. Well, let me end this right now because I don't have any more questions stuff. But thank you once again for that and stuff. I appreciate it and stuff. I
No, thank you,
appreciate the
Angelo,
time you have
for
as
taking the
well.
time and for inviting me on. I really appreciate it. And yeah, no, I hope I hope it went all right for you.